So let's go ahead and get started. I just want to take a minute and mention our safe harbor statement. Any forward-looking statements that we make today shouldn't be included in your purchasing decisions, even though we're going to be talking about some very cool, great technology. Just to introduce myself, I'm John Gifford. I'm a senior technical architect with Salesforce Services, also known as the Customer Success Group or Success Cloud. And we're responsible for implementing Salesforce for our clients. We make really cool mobile applications, so I'm part of the mobile team. I specialize in architecting mobile applications for the enterprise, and so I get to work on the cool stuff, the fun stuff. I've been with Salesforce Services for about 2.5 years now, and absolutely love it. So I'm excited to be here and show you the things that we're going to talk about today. Also, we have with us a special guest, Cody with Blue Cats, and I'll give him a minute to introduce himself.
Hi, like you said, I'm Cody Singleton from Blue Cats. We do proximity as a service. We are located in Huntsville, Alabama, Austin, Texas, and Sydney, Australia. So thanks, guys, for coming out.
Great. So Blue Cats is the iBeacon technology that we're going to be using in our application, our demonstration today. Also, the folks at Blue Cats have been so kind to donate a few of their starter packs to us, their developer starter packs to us. And if you pay real close attention to the demonstration today, we're going to ask some questions at the end, and you just might walk away with one of these starter packs. So thanks to the Blue Cats guys for doing that. So what I want to talk about today is first start off by talking about a use case of Salesforce1 Platform and how that evolves into, thinking about using it with a technology like iBeacons. So for this particular use case, we're talking about a retail application for a loyalty rewards program for consumers. So this loyalty rewards program is built on the Salesforce communities. It's a full HTML customized website built on communities, and I'm going to show you a demonstration of it today. It combines all of the great technologies that Salesforce has to offer in communities, including CMS with custom objects straight out of the box. I'm going to show you how that works. It's very responsive. It uses technologies like jQuery and Bootstrap to give us that responsive look and feel. We've built it with mobile-first idea in mind, and also build once, run everywhere, so that we can then consume that application on a mobile device. If we look at how we've combined communities with mobile applications, we've built this community with Visualforce and Apex, and it's responsive, so it fits the mobile form factor. We've also used community portals for login, and we've used the Salesforce Mobile SDK for OAuth, so that we can customize the application to the individual that's logging in. So the slides are okay, but what we really want to do is take a look at the application, right? So let me just jump over to that. Sorry about the screen flashes while I transition here. So here's our community mobile application. It's fully built on the Salesforce platform. You can see that it has branding and customization specific to this customer. The customer is not in production yet, so it's client confidential, but I'm showing you a version of their website to demonstrate this application. So we have this great, rich experience in a customer community. Some other great things about this is it's responsive. So if we minimize this down to the mobile form factor, you can see the menu turns into a menu that would be more appropriate for a mobile device. We've also leveraged the power of Salesforce to make the content dynamic. One second here, dragging all over the place. So to make the content more dynamic, we have leveraged the Salesforce custom objects. So straight out of the box, an administrator can go and they can drive the content of what's in your website. So events I've got pulled up here. Events can be updated as records in Salesforce and then pushed up to your website automatically. And I'm going to show a demonstration of that here in a minute. Some of the other cool technologies that we've leveraged for a particular client are Salesforce Knowledge and several other custom objects that allow you to interact with customer communities and the power of the Salesforce platform. Salesforce Knowledge allows you to give information about the rewards program to your clients. And we've also leveraged email to case and web to case so that they can submit questions and so forth. So if we jump over to the Salesforce application, the look and feel that we all know and love here, I've created a CMS application that just has a few basic tabs, an area where I can edit the carousel images or add new carousel images. So if you look at the home page of the website, we've got a banner here that can scroll back and forth. We've also got the events that I showed you earlier, and creating a new event or adding a new event to your website is as simple as just adding a new record to that custom object. Again, from the administrative perspective, we've done all of that straight out of the box without any customization. So I could show you how to edit this website with Salesforce, but that wouldn't be very fun. So I'm actually going to go into the mobile application and show you Salesforce1 and how we can kind of tie the Salesforce1 mobile application into managing our website content. So if I go into Salesforce1 here, maybe I'm not at my computer, I'm walking around and I realize, or I get a message on Chatter from my boss that says, hey, we created this Black Friday ad and we need to make it live on our website, and I realize I haven't turned it on. So I'm just going to go in here to Salesforce1. I'm going to go to my carousel images, select the Black Friday sale. We'll just hit edit here. And let's make it active. And hit save. Now, if I go back to see if I hit the right button here. All right, if I go back to my web application, and I'll just simply refresh my home screen here. Now I have two carousel images. So I have, my Black Friday ads. It's now turned on. Again, straight out of the box, standard Salesforce functionality. So we've also built a mobile application. Let me just switch over to that real quick and show you the mobile application. What are some of the cool things that we've done with this mobile application? Well, first of all, we've leveraged the content that we've already created from the community site to deliver content to the mobile application. So here we have the content that you can see here. We have messages also, so we can send notifications to our users as they're walking around. We can send them messages about deals and promotions that we have going on. The great thing is we've leveraged the Salesforce Mobile SDK, so we can make this all offline too. So we download and cache that data and information. So what happens if they're deep within a department store and they want to use their loyalty rewards card to scan at the point of sales? Well, this is available offline, so they can just go to the card and they can scan it. They can also receive rewards and so forth. So we've combined all of that technology and leveraged what we've already built to quickly spin up a mobile application that has some of the community's components as well as the mobile components of a native mobile app. So going back real quick, how many of you have used the Salesforce Mobile SDK? Great, quite a few of you have. If you haven't already and you're a developer, definitely take a look at it. So there's several ways to build mobile applications on the Salesforce platform. So I showed you the Salesforce1 mobile application where you can build some employee-facing apps to help administer your sites and so forth. You've got the ability to build custom applications using the Salesforce Mobile SDK, and all of this underlying technology on the Salesforce1 platform by delivering communities and customer logins and all these other things that are great about our platform and powerful about our platform. In this application, we've used the Salesforce Mobile SDK. One of the things I love about the mobile SDK is it's open source. Just like with everything that we have here at Salesforce, It's all transparent. It's open source. So if you want to make some modifications to it to fit your specific needs, you can. If you want to fix a bug in it because you found a bug or defect, you don't need to wait for the team to send out a new iteration of that. So it also has your OAuth wrappers and your API wrappers, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel on that. Your authentication with Salesforce is already set up for you. So there's several different flavors of applications you can build with the Salesforce Mobile SDK. Native applications, hybrid applications, HTML5 applications. Here we showed you kind of a cross between, a cross between all three, actually, where we're delivering content via the website, but we're also exposing native functionality within the app. So what are some things that make a mobile application really cool, that set apart your mobile application from a mobile application that sits there on the device and never gets set up? And when we build mobile applications, we really think about that, especially when we're building applications on the platform. And I think really, if we're to summarize it, there's 5 main components of building a great mobile application. Your application needs to be social, it needs to be functional, it needs to be promotional, so promoting itself and promoting your company. It needs to be operational, so you can gather analytics and get more insights about your customers. And it needs to be personal, a personalized experience. So all of these things are cool, but if you don't have that personal experience, then your users are going to leave the phone in the pocket and not even launch your application. So what I want to talk about today really is the strategy of making your application more personal. And we've done that with several of the components and technologies of a customer community. So with communities, we've leveraged custom mobile applications. We've leveraged the responsive website. We're making that by them logging in with their community's login, the application is very personal. It gives them information tailor-fitted to them. We also have leveraged Exact Target to do push notifications to our users, and they can log in, social sign in with Facebook. They can log in with Facebook, and all of that's very powerful. That makes an application rich, and it makes it personal, and it guarantees almost that we're going to have people use the application and use the power of the platform. But how can we take it to that next step? And that's really what we're here to talk about today, right? Is everybody came here hopefully because they saw iBeacons and it's new and emerging technology, and they wanted to see, hey, how do I incorporate iBeacons into my application or into the Salesforce1 application? So if you think about making your application more personal, let's first of all take the conversation to a conversation about location services. So an application that is location aware is very personal because it understands where you're at. If you think about a map application that guides you along the streets of San Francisco, that application is very personal. It knows me and where I'm at, and it can guide me along the streets. So I'm going to use that a lot, especially when I'm in the city. But if we think about the technologies traditionally that are used for location services, they have some drawbacks, and we know some of those drawbacks. So GPS location services consume battery life. If we have it on all the time, our batteries, our phones get hot in our pocket, and then all of a sudden we don't have battery anymore. GPS doesn't work well indoors. I've noticed this as I've been walking around the conference center here in Moscone West. Sometimes I can't pick up a GPS location because we're out of view of the satellites. The accuracy range is limited, although it works fairly well as you're moving and walking along the streets of San Francisco. It works fairly well if buildings get in the way or whatever. It may be within a few hundred feet. We also could look at, for indoor capabilities, the use of Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi can give us, our position relatively. It's not super accurate, and we have to be connected to the Wi-Fi network. So what iBeacon technology does is really picks up where those location services left off. It really bridges that gap or picks up where those other location services fall short. We can use it indoors. We can get accuracy within feet. We have energy-efficient applications that utilize this service and still give us location services. We can customize our user experience and make our application very personal. How many of you have used iBeacons or played around with iBeacons? Wow, quite a few of you. That's great. That's great to see. For me, it's exciting. I get excited about technology, and it's exciting to see things like this, emerging technology like this, catch fire like this. So it's great to have you guys here. So with iBeacon technology, we're able to take the Salesforce1 Platform and combine iBeacon technology to cover all 5 bases that we talked about before. With the mobile SDK, our application is functional. With Facebook, our application is social. And with Chatter, we can integrate Chatter and make it social. With ExactTarget, we're making it promotional, and we're pushing promotions. With Salesforce1, we're doing reporting. And with the new Salesforce Analytics and Analytics Cloud, we can do reporting and make our application operational. But if we combine all of that together with new technologies like this, it's really exciting because we can cover all those bases, and then we can also make it very personal. So I know a lot of you have played around with iBeacons and explored the world of iBeacons. I don't know to what level. But before we get into showing a demonstration and talking about code, let's really talk about what iBeacons are. When I first started learning about iBeacons, it was a new world to me. I didn't really understand how this device worked. I thought, does it connect to the internet, or how does it work? Really, an iBeacon is a Bluetooth low-energy device. It's just a device, kind of like a transponder, that just sits there and sends out a signal saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, right? When it sends out that signal, it sends out some identifying information so that your application can then connect to that and say, hey, I know what beacon that is, I know what to do. So it sends off a UUID, a major key, and a minor key. Those are the 3 main identifiers for a beacon to find out what it is. Now, if you have different beacon manufacturers, they may obscure those keys so that your beacon is more secure. But those are the 3 ways to identify an iBeacon. The other thing that's important to understand is that an iBeacon has certain ranges. So how is it that we're going to make our application location aware within a few feet? And it's important to understand that there's far, near, and immediate ranges of an iBeacon signal. So we can detect within a few feet of your location or proximity to that beacon, depending on the beacon and the settings of the beacon. So immediate would be within about 3 feet, or in some cases, like the beacons I'm going to show you today, it's like NFC range, so it's within a few inches of the beacon. So those can be adjusted. It's also important when you're thinking about an iBeacon implementation to think about the installation. So iBeacons are hardware. With GPS, you can just, the satellites are already installed, right? We just have to connect to the satellites and find out where we're at in the world. With an iBeacon implementation, we have to install physical devices. So you've got to acquire the devices, you've got to install them, and you've got to think about your use case. How am I going to use these? How are my clients going to interact with these beacons in order to give them that rich experience in their application? So you need to think about this very carefully. There's also environmental factors that interfere with the signal. So a far range of a beacon is about 150 feet in radius. But if you install it behind glass or behind metal, like you see in the doorways here where we're installing it, it may affect that range. And it also may affect those, especially those near ranges as you're honing in. So it's important to really play around with that, and depending on your use case, decide how you're going to install those. So let's go back to the application here real quick and just take a quick look at how we can customize this application. Using iBeacon technology. So let's talk through the use case for a minute. So this is a retail demonstration, right? So if I've got a retail application and I'm meant to use this application as I'm walking through stores, maybe I want notifications of when I walk through the door of a store. So as you can see here, I've got a notification that popped up when I came within range of this white beacon I'm holding in my hand here. So we can install these in the doors of our stores, and as people walk in, say, hey, thank you for visiting our store today. Please have a 10% discount. We can message them in other ways too. So we can really hone in on where they're spending time in our store, or what places are they visiting most, where are they hanging out. So if we wanted to install an iBeacon over by the blue jeans or an iBeacon over by the coats, I've got an iBeacon here that says, hey, my application has intelligence built in to say, hey, you've been spending some time at the coat rack. Maybe you're interested in coats. We've got a great deal on coats on our Black Friday sale that we just posted on our website with Salesforce1. So it gives us that ability to really hone in on our customers' experience and to tailor fit the messages to them better. So I've just popped up a message here with this beacon that says, discounts are available. So that's kind of how iBeacons, that's kind of how they work. That's kind of how we can use them to interact with our applications. Again, all of the intelligence relies on the application itself. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the architecture behind that. So if we look at iBeacon architecture, what happened in what we were seeing just here? Most of the interactions were happening within the device. But before we came to the demo today, some things that had to happen in order to set up this application in order to receive those messages is, we had to have a hardware device, and I've got a picture of several up there. We had to have our SDK installed in our mobile application, and then it had to communicate with those beacons, but it also had to communicate with this admin console that determines what the beacons are. And that admin console can be, the Blue Cats admin console, which Cody's going to show you here in a minute, or it could be Salesforce. So we could connect to Salesforce to determine what these beacons are, what their identity is, or how our application is supposed to interact. The great thing is, and again, you'll want to test this based on your use case, is this going to be an application that connects immediately with the internet, or is it going to be an online, offline kind of thing? Do I need to cache data and send it up later, and so forth? So with that, let's take a look at, I'm going to turn a bit of time over to Cody here to take a look at the Blue Cats website and the admin console that they have set up for managing their beacons.
Thanks, John. Yeah, like I said earlier, we like to think we do provide proximity as a service. And what does that mean? It means we sell you hardware and software to get you up and running quickly and reliably. The beacons we have are in the form factor that John's been showing you. We also have USB beacons. We have other power sources for beacons that we can talk about offline. We give you an SDK, whether it's for iOS, Android, or if you need some kind of plug-in to Salesforce1, we have those available. To the cloud, the API that we have available, and the web tool that we're looking at now. And what do you need to get started? You need to win a starter pack here today, or you just need to purchase one of our starter packs. You can also request them online. All you do is you go in, set up an app, like we see here that John set up, take the app token that's generated for you and plug it into one of the SDKs that you download. At that point, you're up and running. We provide a number of nice features as far as organization of the beacons. You can set up a site for a beacon. Basically, a site is a grouping of beacons that have a common location, whether it be GPS coordinate, address, what have you. The nice thing about grouping beacons like this is that you get to, your SDK can then cache the beacons before the device arrives at the store. That's really important if you want a message at the entrance of the store, which is, probably the number one place anyone wants to message a consumer. Let's see, John's account here has basically three beacons added to it. We obviously have different modes available for the beacon. What we're talking about today is iBeacon mode. There are secure modes. There's iBeacon plus secure modes. There's some data modes. All those things you can find out about on our wiki. Also, John's gone in and set up some categories for these beacons. You can see one of the beacons has the blue category, one has the black category, and one has the white category. These are really simple categories for a demo scenario. But basically what a category is it gives the beacon some context. Whether you're supplying just a name, an ID that maps back to something in your system, or even other information, some kind of custom value. It's just basically a way to identify it within your system. In addition, there's health reports and other user management features that we won't go into today. Thanks, John.
Great, thank you, Cody. So from there, let's take a look at some of the code and how we've implemented this. So Cody's shown you how you can manage the beacons on his website, how you can go through and configure the beacons with categories. Let's just take a quick look at the code. And the code that I'm going to be showing today is code for another application where I've implemented beacons because the current implementation of this application I showed you today is company confidential. So I'm just going to go through and show you really quick, some basic things that you need to do to get iBeacons working in your application. And really the great part about this is you can get, with a few methods and a few lines of code, you can get iBeacons working in your application. So I've installed the Blue Cats SDK. They've made it really easy to install with a package installer called CocoaPods. So you can take any existing application and automatically install the SDK. I've created a convenience method here which fires off an initialization of the SDK with this method that they've named start purring with app token. So that app token that you saw from their website is the app token you plug into your app that gives them that app authorization to use those beacons or access those beacons. It also has a completion block in here that says, hey, when we're done initializing this, we need to check on a few things. So does the application have internet connectivity? Is the application, is the network reachable? Is the Bluetooth signal or the Bluetooth radio turned on? These are Bluetooth devices, so we've got to have that turned on. It's also important to note that in iOS 8, you're required to set up a couple keys in your info.plist file. Those are NS location always usage description and NS location when in use description. And those are required to be set up if you want to start receiving notifications from beacons. You'll find that with iOS 8, if you don't have those set, you won't get signal at all from the beacons. So just as a quick side note there, going back to the code, we'll look at, so once we've initialized the SDK, what happens then? Well, really, that's all we have to do to get it going. Now we've got to decide, okay, hey, where do we build in intelligence to the application? In this case, and I'm using iOS code, we've just built all of this into the app delegate class. So what we're going to do is call this or look at this delegate method from the Blue Cats SDK, did update microlocations, which basically fires every time we're ranging beacons, which means a beacon's within range, we're receiving a signal from it, now what do? Because there can be one or many beacons in an area, those beacons come into the application as an array. So we've determined what the site is right here with this site ID that we've set up in the admin console. And then we've grabbed all the beacons in this nice array, and then we're going to iterate through that array of beacons. What we're looking for in particular is an identity of a beacon, and there's a bunch of things we can use to identify the beacon based on this particular beacon manufacturer. But if we're looking at categories, I want to fire certain messages on certain categories. So my category may be the name of a store that I'm entering or the name of this conference room as I'm entering it. In this case, I've just used category white to indicate that I'm using the white beacon. So once I've detected that I have a white beacon, then I'm going to do something with that. Very simple. Anything you can do with that. So the application I showed you earlier, we just posted a local notification, and the user interacts with it and says okay to dismiss it. At that point, you can also send information to Salesforce. So every time this is ranging and firing, why don't we send information to Salesforce that somebody just walked in the door? Why don't we send information to Salesforce that they stayed for 30 minutes while they were here? Or why don't we send information to Salesforce at the date and time that they left? So we can start gathering information about the traffic patterns through our store and how they're shopping and what parts of our store they're shopping in. And there's a lot of other use cases besides just the retail use case. There's use cases for, for manufacturing or for services. where somebody's going out and servicing machinery or equipment. If you put if you put beacons at each of these pieces of equipment, you can tell when your user's been there. Say they have an inspection application and they come up to the machine and it automatically pulls up on their app, hey, I see you're here. Here's the inspection form that you're supposed to use for this particular piece of equipment. There's a million use cases you can use it for, not just retail, but all kinds of different use cases. So just jumping back real quick, because we're short on time and I want to give you guys plenty of time to ask questions afterwards. I just wanted to point out that, and I don't have, in my demonstration today, Salesforce Analytics or Analytics Cloud or even reporting, but it's important that you don't miss the boat on reporting all of this data. If you spent the investment to install beacons everywhere, make sure that you're gathering information about who's interacting with those beacons and what they're doing. So just in closing, the best practices for beacon installation, make sure that your beacons, remember that your beacons require installation, that they're hardware devices you've got to install. Consider the iBeacon placement depending on your use case. Test it thoroughly. So test the user experience not from a perspective of, I'm a developer and I'm walking around waiting for something to happen in my app, but that you're a consumer and you've got it in your pocket and you're casually walking through. And I'm speaking, from experience. In my own experiences, I was doing the same thing, walking around waiting for something to happen in the app. Don't be overly intrusive. A lot of people think iBeacons are going to be big brother, and they can be if you're overly intrusive and you're constantly sending them information and annoying them to the point that they're going to turn your app off and not use it. Add value to your app. So if you want them to opt in to use iBeacons, make sure there's a good reason for it. Make sure there's a good value proposition for them to use beacon functionality in your application. What am I going to get out of it as a customer if I turn this on? Capture your beacon data, like I said before, and be creative and have fun. You guys have great companies and great businesses and great ideas. I would love to hear about them. Come grab a business card and tell me what you're doing at your company and what you've done. For those of you that have done iBeacons, what you've done there. So as far as what's next, and this deck and this information will be posted afterwards, but make sure you check out the mobile SDK. There's mobile workbooks that you can check out if you haven't tested, check those out and gone through those. We've got a lot of great mobile workbooks on using the SDK. Where can you get beacons? From these great guys at Blue Cats. They'll send you a starter pack if you don't get one today. And there's also some great information on getting started on communities if you want to look at customer communities and the things that we've talked about today. So we have about 7 minutes for questions. Before we start questions, I have 2 quiz questions for you. The first person to answer these questions correctly will get the first 2 of these starter packs, so each person. And then we will offer the other 4 starter packs to the first people that stand up and ask us questions. So the first question is, what are the 3 major identifiers of an iBeacon? Hand here was first. Nope. I don't know who was next. Do you?
We'll go to the closest one.
Okay, UID, minor, and major.
You
Cool.
got it.
Here you go. I put an email. Just for everybody, I put my email on the back. If you send me an email, I'll send you a starter pack code. The guys who sent them out here thought they were going to be part of the Salesforce team instead of going out as starter packs.
Yeah, so just send an email to get started on their website. You'll get a login access if you just send an email to that email on the back.
Right.
All right, next question really quick. What? Good
awesome.
strategy. All right.
Make it hard.
What are the 3 ranges of an iBeacon? I think I saw a hand over here. 310 to 150? That's awesome. That's not the answer I was looking for, but that's correct. I think that's
even better.
That deserves. All right, we'll hand one out to the next person that can tell me the names of the ranges. Right here.
Sorry, it's
No.
far, near, immediate.
Perfect. That was very impressive, though, that you remembered the numbers. So good job.
Was it you? Cool. Sure.
Okay, cool. So we'd love to hear some questions. We've got about 5.5 minutes left. First 3 people to come up and ask us questions at the microphones in the middle here. We'll also get a starter pack. So yeah, be sure and use the microphone so it gets on the recording.
Is the unique ID configurable from the admin app? Because I know that some producers don't make, such as iBeacon, don't make the unique ID configurable,
Right.
but is interesting for some kind of application.
Sure.
Is that configurable?
It ships with the Blue Cat's proximity UUID, and
Okay.
then a major and minor. But you have the option of setting it to whatever you
So we
want.
can change.
Right.
And from the SDK, are we able to manage and extract even information about power, battery life, and things like
Yep,
that?
you get access to the same information that comes up through our system. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you're willing to dig into the beacon object, then you can get it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Sure.
So my question is not specific to Blue Cats, but just iBeacon technology in general, because I've kind of been learning about it. But I think one of the problems that a lot of people run into is like if phones, Bluetooth is, like you were mentioning, like if it's not on, and also like a lot of the, the iBeacon technologies are tied to a specific app. And so if that app is off or notification turned off, and so like, I mean, for Blue Cat, for you guys too, like how do you encourage app developers and, especially for Salesforce1,
Yeah,
to
so-
like create apps that will encourage users to keep it on and really enjoy using the beacon technology.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll take that question because we actually did that in an implementation where we used a combination of Bluetooth technology with iBeacons and geolocation. So when they entered a certain geolocation range, so they came, within the parking lot, we gave them a reason, to turn on that functionality. So we said, hey, we actually had a parking lot finder. So when they came in, we messaged them to say, hey, use our parking lot finder. They could use that. And then we said, be sure and turn on Bluetooth for great deals while you're shopping here. So you're exactly thinking along the right lines. You just need to be creative about it. So think about how you can message with push notifications or how you can message with functionality in the application to really entice them. Say, hey, you're going to miss out on this awesome deal unless you turn on Bluetooth. Or, and just like I said, add value. Give a good value proposition. I don't know if I have a specific answer. It's going to be based on use case, but just be creative with it.
Right. And I was also wondering, like in terms of getting, so that's, the question I had was like, how do you get people into it? But then once you're into it, how do you engage people to use social media even, to like interact with your brand? So it's almost like, I'm kind of curious about, iBeacon is like you're a store, retail store or what have you, and I, as a retail store, want to talk to you as a customer, but then how do you create this conversation loop?
Right.
And is there something you can do with iBeacon that can create a dialogue loop? I don't know.
I mean, you can even embed, you want to?
Go ahead.
You can even embed a hashtag for a beacon.
Right.
So if they go to, hit the Twitter button at that time and go ahead and add the hashtag to their
So I was
message
thinking
going
too.
out.
Right.
That way if they, tweet something, it's got a hashtag.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next question?
2 questions. No, just one starter
Oh.
pack.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering, how much information can you store on an iBeacon? Say if I didn't really want to access a data store through
Right.
the cloud or internet. Say I'm like in a basement or somewhere and I want to use this internally, where we don't necessarily have an internet or network accessible to the app, but there's still a lot of data that I want to access off of some of these beacons as I move maybe from room to room or something. Maybe that's a use case.
Right. So that's a very good question, and you'll need to think about the use case. But what we've found is if you're constantly ranging, so you're ranging at whatever interval is set up for your beacon, and you're sending up data to Salesforce every time it pings that beacon, then you're going to quickly accumulate a lot of data, right? So you'll want to build that intelligence into your application so that it says, hey, I've already pinged this beacon. I've already notified that I've come within immediate range of this beacon. I'm not going to send that data again until I leave that immediate range and then come back, or something to that effect, or leave for a certain amount of time.
But
So
What if there's specific information I want from each beacon every time? Say I have a user and they have an app on their iPad and they enter a certain room. I want them to be able to access, about a large amount of data, maybe 500 megs, a gig worth of data just to download. I know it sounds like a crazy use case, but
That's a big number.
yeah.
Yeah, now keep in mind that the data will not reside on the iBeacon. It never will. The iBeacon is just to tell the application that it's
Just more of an
there.
ID type.
So it'd have to say, hey, I'm here, now I'm going to go to the internet to fetch that data.
Okay, so
just
there
make sure
has
you
to be
remember that.
some kind of network activity, internet activity to
For a
hit
use
data
case like that,
store.
there would be, yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're past time, but they said we have 1 or 2 more minutes, so.
So I was just wondering, is there any limit in the iBeacons, like the number of devices that can connect to each other?
The number of devices that you have in a certain area or that you've registered to your application, no, there's not a limit.
Okay, and
You could have hundreds. Now, one thing you want to think about is if you had hundreds in a given area, it might affect your user experience because you've got all of these radiuses of beacons interfering with each other. So it's something you want to think about. If they're, real close together, or a lot of them, overlapping ranges, then you may not have the best user experience.
so like from my understanding, the technology of iBeacon is more like a server and client stuff. So you have one server and you have multiple clients sending to it. Is the client can connect to each other with the iBeacon as well, or do you have to connect through server first? So what I mean is like, can we build like a chat applications between like multiple iBeacons and stuff like that?
Depends on the beacon and the firmware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where the beacons could talk to each other.
It's Bluetooth Low Energy Protocol, and that's definitely possible. If you're going to power it with 2 AA batteries, and you're going to scan with a beacon, AA batteries are going to drain fast. But if they're powered with AC or USB, then yeah, it's definitely possible.
Okay. Okay.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming. Really appreciate it. Cards, come up and grab them, and we'll transition to the other guys. Thank you.